Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips, which is brought to you by Wellness Forum Health and the Wellness Forum Institute for Health Studies. So, a couple quick announcements before I get into, I think, some pretty interesting stuff for today. One is the next free tour of Wellness Forum resources, which is followed by a Q&A with me, general health Q&A, will be Tuesday, June 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's free. One time only. You can't do it all the time, but I take people on a tour of our libraries, that kind of thing, and then I'm happy to engage in a free Q&A. So if you want to do that, send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. Many of you have been asking me to develop and present a workshop on this product called Apeel, Apeel. I'm doing that actually, and July 10th, I believe, is the date for it. This is for professional members of Wellness Forum and above. This is an example of the type of programming our members have access to. So this might be a good time to join Wellness Forum if you're interested in hearing about this. There are a lot of misstatements being made about it on both sides, by the way. So fair and balanced and accurate and scientific is our motto here. And I'm going to tell you what this is all about. And then the third thing is for those of you in the healthcare business or those of you who just love to learn, the Diet and Lifestyle Intervention course starts August 14th. We offer this 2 to 3 times a year, and it's a 15-module course that covers men's health, women's health, children's health, autoimmune diseases, cancer, just it's 15 modules of great information on the most important conditions in healthcare and what to do and causes and that sort of thing. Very interesting course. You can audit it or you can take it for credit if you are in a professional development program with us. So I'm going to start with a question from a subscriber, and then I want to talk about a new study concerning Alzheimer's disease. This is affecting so many people, I think it warrants quite a bit of attention. So first of all, a question from a subscriber who asks a series of questions about blood pressure. What is normal? Is 120/80 made up, or is it really normal? And people are asking questions about diagnostic parameters right now because they're starting to figure out that they've been exaggerated and manipulated for the wrong reasons, right? Would an active or a sedentary person tend to have a different set of guidelines for normal? And should we be measuring blood pressure at all? All right, so good questions, and the answer is long. There are a lot of referenced articles posted in our library on this topic, and I won't try to read to you 20 pages of stuff, right? We also offer a full course on cardiovascular disease, but I think I can answer the question adequately here. All right, so first, it is important to measure blood pressure. It's a good marker to determine your risk of heart attack or stroke, and high blood pressure can be a sign that you need to make some changes to prevent worsening health or an event. What's normal? Well, 120/80 used to be kind of a benchmark, but there was a time when doctors were not really militant about stuff like this. 140/90 was considered a threshold at which you might start to look at diet change, exercise, weight loss, but not necessarily medication unless things got worse. And diet and lifestyle could prevent this if you were willing to make the right changes. But even if blood pressure didn't lower down to the benchmark of 120/80, it was widely recognized that the benefits of medicating someone with slightly elevated blood pressure in some cases were not justified if you look at the side effects of medication. So before the medical world went completely off the deep end, there was some recognition that humans are not machines and that evaluating health by numbers alone was maybe not the most productive way to deal with human beings, right? Well, a big shift in the defining of who is considered sick and in need of medication, not just with blood pressure, but with many other conditions, happened in the early 1990s when drug companies started to get involved with expert committees that defined diagnostic parameters and treatment protocols. The goal was to sell more drugs, and it was achieved by creating more sick people who could qualify to take the drugs. So two things happened as it related to blood pressure. First, normal blood pressure was lowered to 110/70. And so you had a whole lot more people that fell into the hypertensive or pre-hypertensive category. There are all kinds of fancy ways they label this stuff. The second thing is studies were conducted to look at the effect of multiple drugs in lowering blood pressure with the idea from the beginning that lower is always better no matter how you get there. One trial involved groups taking 1, 2, 3, or 4 or more drugs to lower blood pressure. So there's a long story around this, but it opened the door to aggressive lowering of blood pressure with as many drugs as you could give somebody with no consideration of side effects, which are significant, or the fact that even severely hypertensive people can reduce their blood pressure to acceptable levels by drinking more water, adopting a better diet, exercise, weight loss, etc. Another thing to keep in mind on the blood pressure issue is blood pressure readings in doctors' offices are almost always inaccurate and usually should be ignored. Patients should be instructed to take their blood pressure at home. We have a handout in the library about how to do this because it's routinely done incorrectly even at home. So back to where we started. 120/80 is a benchmark. Not everybody with higher blood pressure should be medicated. Evaluation of risk and benefit is important based on the particular person's state of health and medical history. Taking readings at home is important the right way. You get much better data when you do this properly. So I know that sometimes people are disappointed because I don't give yes, no answers, but you should be really scared about any health professional that says we always do this and we never do that and always never and yes and no. And, human beings are not machines, right? We need to evaluate what we do to them and with them a little bit more carefully. So I hope that helps to the person who wrote this email to me. All right, the second thing is I've been reporting for many years that amyloid plaque and other physical brain abnormalities are not the cause of Alzheimer's disease. They are likely markers for other things that are. I've presented a lot of data to support my stance on this in our library, and also we have an entire course dedicated to this condition. So here's a little bit more insight. So the first thing is neuroscientist Karen Ash plans to retract her landmark study on Alzheimer's disease. This paper suggested that Alzheimer's could be caused by amyloid protein. It's been cited 2,500 times, and the theory is the basis for many of the useless drugs the FDA has approved to treat Alzheimer's. The reason for the retraction is it contains manipulated images. It's important to elaborate on what I mean by useless drugs. And we just had a recent episode that's good to share with you about Alzheimer's. An FDA committee just unanimously voted to approve a new Alzheimer's drug last Monday. The drug doesn't improve cognition for those who take it, and 7% of patients experience neurodegeneration after 18 months of taking the drug. 76.4% of patients cleared their amyloid plaques. So you heard that right. Useless for improving symptoms of Alzheimer's in spite of clearing the amyloid deposits, which are markers for behavior that leads to Alzheimer's, not for the disease itself. The clinical trial was originally designed to test the drug's ability to improve cognition and memory, which is what I would think Alzheimer's patients and their families are looking for. But the endpoint was changed during the study, which is supposed to be a no-no in research, to measure reduction in plaque. This was likely done because it was already apparent that the drug didn't work. Another issue was excess mortality for those taking the drug. Eli Lilly claims that death was an adverse event related to the breaking up of amyloid in the brain. Well, gosh, now I feel so much better about the deaths. They can explain it. Another red flag was the dropout rate, which was very high, and it might have been because of microhemorrhage events were twice as high in the drug group as compared to the placebo. So this is a very good example of the disconnect between amyloid plaque accumulation in the brain and what's really causing Alzheimer's disease. Now, the big question here, will the FDA approve the drug for its business partner, Eli Lilly? I said that purposefully. There's no regulator anymore, just business partner. Probably. It's useless, harmful, and expensive, so what's not to like about it? And what's just one more small favor for a friend? And I mean it that way. I mean, the drug companies pay the FDA to review their products, so it's not shocking that most of them, if not all, are approved. In terms of resources, our course on cognitive health and Alzheimer's disease focuses on the strategies that really do prevent and sometimes reverse cognitive decline. There are several, and of course, one of them is diet. So that brings me to a new study conducted by Dean Ornish showed that a combination of diet, exercise, stress reduction, and social interaction slowed cognitive decline and even resulted in improvement for some people. 49 patients with mild cognitive impairment were enrolled in the study, with half assigned to make lifestyle changes for 20 weeks, while the other half continued their current habits. Those in the control group were offered the opportunity to join the intervention arm at the end of the study for reasons that will become apparent here. Vegan meals and snacks were provided by the research team. Exercise consisted of 30 minutes of aerobic exercise, mostly walking every day, strength training at least 3 times per week. A stress management specialist helped with meditation, yoga, stretching, and relaxation exercises for an hour per day. Subjects and their partners participated in a support group 3 times a week to discuss and resolve problems. Several supplements were provided. I won't go into it here, but in my opinion, they were pretty useless with the possible exception of the probiotic, which may have some value for Alzheimer's patients. By the end of 20 weeks, those in the intervention group had statistically significant improvement in 3 out of 4 cognitive tests and borderline statistically significant improvement in the fourth. Control participants showed worsening scores on all four. So you've got one group that's getting better and one group that continues to deteriorate. The improvements were small, but it's important to recognize that 20 weeks is a short period of time. So when we're working with Alzheimer's or people who are going in that direction and their families, our plan is permanent change to new habits, not just a few weeks, and improvement usually continues over a very long period of time. One important outcome, I think, was the dose-dependent effect of the intervention, which makes it more likely that the intervention was really responsible for the change. The more closely the subjects adhered to the changes, the more improvement they showed. Another was that blood markers for amyloid protein were reduced, which reinforces my longtime stance that amyloid is a marker for things that matter, like diet and exercise or lack thereof. Ornish stated that he plans to continue following the patient. So I was kind of disappointed to see that he's also interested in looking at whether or not this intervention can be combined with the useless FDA-approved drugs. But I'll let that pass because I think this is just some more evidence, and it's certainly not the only evidence. We have a boatload of it in our articles and in our Alzheimer's course and that sort of thing. But it's an important study, and people should pay attention to it. So the bottom line here is Alzheimer's disease is a chronic degenerative condition that is almost always caused by years and even decades of not eating well, lack of exercise, dehydration, and other factors which become complicated when people get older and they have less social interaction and more time on their hands, and they don't use their they don't use their brain as much and that sort of thing. So if just taking this into consideration, it's easy to see that it's highly unlikely that a pill would fix this, right? It's kind of absurd. So it's not surprising that all efforts in this area have failed. But there's lots of evidence showing that Alzheimer's disease can be remedied with early stage. Once people are, there's a certain point of no return. But if you get it early stage, there's a lot that you can do. Another thing to mention is that one of the signs that a condition is related to diet and lifestyle changes when you see geographic distribution. There are places in the world where people live a very long time and they don't develop Alzheimer's disease. And so it tells you that there's something, this isn't just one of those things that happens with age. It happens with age in particular areas of the world in which people engage in particular and adopt particular diet and lifestyle habits. So anyway, that's my story today on Alzheimer's disease. As usual, I'll pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it. If you're interested in any of the things I talked about at the beginning of this video, please send me an email at pampopper@msn.com, and I will be back to you on Thursday with more news. Thank you for watching.